North Wales.
Thank you, Amanda. And Jeremy, in going to your policing by consent again in South Wales, recently there was an incident in Ely, we know all about that, but the Police and Crime Commissioner came out straight away and said some things which were then found to be not correct. How did that affect the relationship between the police and the public in that local area?
So obviously you'll have to ask the Police and Crime Commissioner to comment on his own words, but the relationship with the public in Ely it has always been historically very good and very positive. Everybody who's worked in Ely has always enjoyed working there. I've spent a lot of time operationally there, and sadly a few people, on the night of the disorder, in response to events that had taken place before it, let everybody down, and we were pursuing them with vigour in terms of offences of riot. It's quite difficult for me to comment on the operational events that led up to what took place in Ely. And it's even more difficult for me to comment on them now because the Independent Officer of Police Conduct, which is the system that we've got in this country, which is the one that I'm bound to, mean that they don't take primacy with the investigation. So I can't really explain the events that led up to it. And I haven't been able to explain them.
Can I just intervene? There are sub judice rules around this case, I understand, so I think you need to be careful.
Yeah,
I think my explanation is I can't. It's hard to answer that question because, not hard to answer the question. It's hard for me to give broad public explanations about events that have taken place when I'm handing it over to other people to investigate and respond to them, and therefore that makes it difficult. So the system is set up and stacked against me in that regard. And
I understand completely because the IOPC investigations I can say this, you can't, notoriously long and slow. So that makes it more difficult for the public to actually see what is happening as a result of what's gone on. So I understand completely. But in terms of your managing policing by consent, how are you working now to build up that relationship again?
Well, so importantly for me, the neighbourhood policing response kicks in, it exists anyway, and we have precious neighbourhood policing resource across Wales and in South Wales, which means that characteristically we can have a relationship with the public which is built on visibility, accessibility, problem solving, engagement. So that kicks in the day after the neighbourhood policing response is on the ground. There's a community reference group which owns recovery. The police are part of that community reference group. We don't chair it, but we're definitely a partner at the table at a very senior level. We report into a ministerial-led group within Welsh Government. There will be some investment there, no doubt. I've put additional resource in there, naturally, because I want people to feel like they've got a greater presence there than perhaps previously. We're working really hard on recovery in Ely, and some of the work that we've done since, which includes our response to the ride-along vigil, which includes our response to the funeral and so on, we've been really keen to make sure that the public are behind us and understand exactly what we're doing at any given time, why we're doing it. We're using that reference group to check and test the kind of things that we're putting in place.
Thank you very much. I'll hand you back to the chair now.
Thank you. We will bring the session to a close, and you've all been extremely patient, and thank you very much for your time. But just on the point that Ruth Jones mentioned, and Chief Constable Vaughan, earlier in the session, you said very, very clearly that you are responsible for operational matters. That's not something for the Police and Crime Commissioner. You just said a moment ago, well, the Police and Crime Commissioner's explanation for what had gone on was, that's up to his own words. But it was still very much a live operational issue, and the Police and Crime Commissioner went out on national media and gave a version of events in a very authoritative way. He blamed it on social media and gave a version of events which subsequently may not look to be true. Now, presumably he was briefed by operational commanders on what to say.
So the Police and Crime Commissioner did receive a briefing. It is a matter for the Police and Crime Commissioner whether he speaks to the media or not, but of course he does engage a dialogue with the organisation before then. I think it's important, and I will say this because as an observer of that, and obviously somebody who's got a deep vested interest in it, I think the Police and Crime Commissioner was hoping to help and deal with what, let's not forget, was a riot, and of course had the potential to become an escalation of riots over an extended period. I'm now stuck with not being able to comment on actual events and what took place in terms of the specifics, which might help with that answer, but I can't really.
But in terms of the work of building trust or rebuilding trust. There are some who argue there was never a lot of trust anyway in Ealing. For somebody in such a significant position giving a potentially misleading statement in a very live and fast-moving situation that's not going to be particularly helpful, no?
Well, I'm not going to be drawn on it because I just think it's unfair to ask me to critique an interview that the Police and Crime Commission has taken when I can't furnish you with information about the sequence of events.
Okay. Very, very quickly, Beth, please.
Because the police denied chasing the boys initially, and I know you can't comment on the specifics, but do you think you can regain trust with the same force leadership? Because, I mean, there's a catalogue of events, whether it's, and I'm talking generally now, we've got misogyny, you've got racism, which we haven't had time to touch on. But, I mean, do you feel that you can regain trust with the current force leadership?
When you say the current force leadership, what do you mean?
Well, the senior officers and people in senior positions within South Wales Police.
Well, I think that the standards of professional behaviour apply to everybody. And people are asked to leave the organisation where they fall far below the standards of professional behaviour. I have a deeply committed leadership team around me who want to do their best to improve the service that we provide to the public. When I walked into Ely Police Station the following morning at 6:30 and I saw all those police officers who'd been wounded and injured as a result of the events the night before and who were also committed to trying to investigate what turned out to be a tragic fatal road traffic collision. I've got very committed humans around me who are public servants. And I think others will be the judge of who said what and when and what our response was, and we'll deal with their judgment accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much. We're really grateful for the length of time you've given us. We have run over the allotted time, and we do appreciate your frank and full answers to all of our questions, and we'll bring the session to a close. Order.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.